All right, everybody, welcome to the Groundsman. You're here again for another Coach's Corner with a fantastic coach, Donovan Scholtz, under 15 coach at St. John's. I'm hoping you guys will learn a lot from him. We're going to have a great conversation around what skills the kids should be looking at. We're going to have a great conversation around what qualities you should be looking at your son, and really what the school program looks like. So, Donovan, thank you so much for joining us. I think the beginning of the year has, oh man, this COVID sort of 18 months has been such a difficult time. I can imagine for players, the stopping and starting and really not having a consistent season like they would have had in the past. I think that sort of leads us into our first question, in that what do you think the players should be focusing on sort of leading up to the new season?
Thank you. Firstly, thank you for having me on here. Yeah, I think it's been quite tough on the boys or on the players during this COVID time, on and off. You just get back into it, and then you got to stop, and then back into it. So it goes back and forth. But from my side, what I can think of is, the basics become very key. They become very important, especially after the stop and start, and them going into different sports, coming back into cricket. It's important to get those basics right, and the basics are key to gaining the skill set they need to achieve their goals, and that creates and ultimately the confidence leads to success. So and I mean, every player is different. You deal with a lot of different players. You know how to approach them in different ways, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. So it's quite exciting working with different kinds of players. And the preparation towards a season, a new season, changes with each player. So yeah, from my side, I think the basics are very, very important. Especially if you look at batting, just start off with underarm drills so that they can focus on their shape with their shots that they play. With the bowlers, running from shorter run-ups, focusing on their actions, getting their mindset right, where they want to be. And the fielding is very key, I think, in the school sports. It also teaches them to know what it feels like to save a game.
Yeah.
Or it teaches them different skills.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think what you're talking about is so important, going back to basics. And it then sort of begs the question, because I mean, the kids have been home, they're still trying to figure out what life looks like in this time with sort of Zoom classes and sort of texting your coach or trying to figure out what it is I should be doing and how I should be doing it. When before it was easy, man. You just walk from one classroom in between classes, maybe pop your head into your class and say, hey, coach, this is what I was thinking, or wait after school and just come and grab you, So it is an interesting time. And I guess there's then a question around what values do you sort of value most in a player? What are the principles you think a player needs to be successful?
If I look at that question, I think, throughout the years of being a coach and looking at what makes a successful player, and for me, it comes down to, I call it the 5 Ds: your desire, your dedication, your discipline, and your determination. And the 5th key is ultimately what it leads to. It leads to a destination. And, that is almost like, it's like a food recipe with all the ingredients that you need. And for me, that creates a successful player.
That's fantastic, man. I think that's if you're trying to figure out how do you move to the next level, I think that recipe gets you there. And if you have a decent coach by your side, if you have a parent who's attentive, that can hold you accountable to the goals that you set for yourself as a player, I think you're well headed for success. I think you answered this question a little bit at the beginning, but there are kids sort of at home. Well, some are starting to come back to school now. I saw some of the boarding boys headed back to school. But again, in times like this, you often find yourself alone, right? Social distancing and all that good stuff. What are sort of 2 or 3 drills that you think the guys can be focusing on, if really they've got no one else to help them out with? What would you recommend the guys sort of focus on, 2 or 3 drills to get them going?
I think that's a very important thing to look at especially in these times. But for me, I think with it's important for a boy to have good hand-eye coordination. So, I mean, standing against the wall with a tennis ball, working on one hand at a time, catching with one hand at a time, maybe 10 times with each hand, and then trying to do it better the next time. And if I look at the bowling, I mean, you can just basically stand from a standstill position, work on your action. And if you want to really work on your wrist position, the best way I learned, and I'm looking back at when I was a kid, and we didn't have any private coaches to go to, so we were watching cricket and then trying to go do it outside how they did it. So I, for my wrist position as a bowler, you can lie on your bed facing upwards, looking at the ceiling, and just flicking the ball up and catching it again, flicking the ball up, catching it again. Just works on that nice straight wrist position. And with batting, I think it's, if you got no one else to assist you, it's quite hard with batting, because you need someone to throw a ball. But I mean, if you look at that, you can bat looking in a mirror and just going over all your shots, looking at where your head's going, looking at where your foot's going, where your bat is going. So I think, like, even if it's not in these times with COVID around, it's also very key to do that at home every day, even if you do it for about 10 minutes a day. It has a huge impact on your cricket at school.
That's fantastic. I think if you're a player, you're at home, you're trying to figure out how can you get yourself going before practice, right? So you're probably going to start practice either this week or the following week if you have a program that's ready to go. But how do you jumpstart that? And what you've just given them there is gold. So if I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm a player, I knock on my boys' room and say, hey, these are the 3 things you can get going. That's great, Donovan. I think we can sort of then move to the last question, which for me is often an important one, because a lot of these kids often start to play cricket early, and they at somewhere along the line, maybe around 12, 13, they either fall off or they decide, you know what, I'm gunning for this thing, right? And you get them around 15, which is actually a very critical age, because that is when sort of that testosterone's kicking up. Guys come back after the break and they've shot up a few centimeters and they've left a few oaks behind, and they come back and you're like, who is this guy? I think he should be a bowler or something. So in that time, the players that are focused, that are dedicated to doing what it is that they want to achieve, and they're trying to make a career out of this thing. So with some of the players you've seen come through your hands, and I think come through sort of the St. John's program that have gone on to make a career out of the game that we love, whether they're playing national or county or first class, what is the sort of one thread that you've seen that differentiates them from all the other guys?
For me, I think it's pure determination. You know, determination to succeed and commit. And you know, those players are always the ones that always strive to be one step ahead of everyone else. Um, and you actually see it because it's and I mean it's not always the most talented player around. It's always the one that works the hardest, puts more hours in than everyone else. Um, wants to do well. You're gonna have to want it to actually succeed. And yeah, I feel determination is the key word one there.
That makes so much sense. When I chat to some of the pros along the way that I've gone to know, that is honestly the one thing they say. You just got to put the hours in, man. It's about discipline. It's about repetition of the skill set. It's really about your ability to execute on the skill set more often than not. And the only way you can do that is time in the nets, and time at practice. So I think, Coach, thank you so much. We really do appreciate your time. I think the kids out there, if you're at St. John's, now you know what your under 15 coach is looking for. If you're a kid hoping to join the program one day and come to the school, you know the kind of coaches that you're gonna come across and what they're looking for in a player. So set yourself right. Get your mind right, get yourself ready, because the season is going to be a blockbuster one. Coach, thank you so much. Really appreciate you from the Groundsman. Goodbye.
Thank you.